Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about my Smart Travel bike. I just hit 900 miles on this bike. So let's just talk some numbers here, because I've been keeping track of when I got the bike, which was on 7/18 of 2023 is when I received the bike, put the bike together, got on it for the first time. Then we've got today, which is 9/26/2023. So if you take the difference, that'd be 70 days, right? So I've owned the bike 70 days. And in 70 days, I've done 901 miles. And that makes it an average of 12.87 miles a day. But that also, as of current, that means that I've only spent $1.66 a mile so far, because I paid $1,500 for this bike. So the more miles I put on it, then it would chip away at what it costs me per mile. Now that cost per mile doesn't include the battery charging, but that's just the paying, if you do it from what I paid for the bike and how many miles I've put on the bike. So each mile has cost me at this time $1.66 per mile. So, and again, if I put 1,000 miles on this bike, in addition to what, that number obviously goes down to how much per mile it costs me. But I wanted you to see the bike today. It does have the 903 is what it's saying, 903 miles. And the last time I did my video, I was kind of griping about the squealing of the brakes, thinking that those were actually going bad. I was wrong about that. They stopped squealing when it stopped raining in Vermont. So it was moisture that was somewhere in the system, because these brakes, it hasn't rained in 4 or 5 days, and these brakes have not squealed once. So basically, yeah, I got the squealing because the pads must have been wet. Now, obviously, we talked about the wear that's on the tire. So the tire is going, down. It's not crazy down, but I think I'm going to get another 1,000 miles probably out of those tires, or at least that back tire. Then I'll just have probably the bike shop, Island Auto Haven up the road, who sells motorcycles, probably could swap out that tire for me. It should not be that hard. The front tire is fine. I mean, geez, I'll probably get 2,000 miles out of that front tire, because it's like brand new still. As for the rest of the bike, still no rust, still no breakage anywhere, no rubbing, nothing rubbing, or causing destruction on itself. You get some things that are mechanical and they rub somewhere and whatnot, and you see scraping, and this, just by utilizing the device, you actually damage the device. Not with this bike. I mean, I would say the last 250 miles, I have pedaled this bike. So I haven't used the throttle much at all. I do like using the throttle to get going at first, just to get my inertia going, and then I use the pedals. And I use this bike on pedal assist 5. If you've watched any of my videos, I like pedal assist 5. On pedal assist 5, I get about 30 miles out of the bike before the battery is dead. I got a second battery for this thing. So the battery, if you want to get a second battery, it's $250 on Amazon for the battery. So what I do is I run the battery dry. I mean, I get my 30 miles out of it, then I come home and I swap the battery out. And by the time I utilize the second battery, the first battery's charged again. So I'm not really ever without battery. So for an extra $250, you can really pretty much have as much fun or time on it as you like. Now, I've been riding the bike for exercise purposes currently, so I can lose some weight and get fit. But I also like going around the island and looking at the scenery, and this bike really is comfortable. It's got the dual suspension. It's very comfortable. It brakes fine. Now, we were talking about miles per hour. Now, the bike is rated, I guess, it's supposed to be rated for most states for 28 miles an hour. And if you leave it on pedal assist 4, you'll never get past 28 miles an hour. But if you put it on pedal assist 5, depending on your state, you might be, on the edge of a knife there on what's legal and what's not legal. For me, I think this bike is legal. I know this bike is legal in the state of Vermont because it's considered a Class 3 e-bike, and they haven't put any restrictions on it. Plus, I have a motorcycle endorsement, so I don't really think anybody's going to bother me while I'm doing this or riding this bike. With that said, I got a new app that tells me how fast I go, because the mileage indicator here caps out at 34 miles an hour. Regardless on how fast the bike may proceed that, it stops at 34 miles an hour. It will never go higher than that on this. My app, my GPS tracking app, has told me that I have gone up to 50 miles an hour with this thing hitting. There's a hill down the road that I hit the other day, and my GPS tracking app clocked me at 52 miles an hour. Now, on a normal ride where the thing is tracking me, I'm getting close to my, because it does my average speed, it does my max speed, it does my total mileage, and my max speed normally hovers at 41 miles an hour. So if I'm just going down regular hills here on the island, not super duper hills, this thing's going about 41 miles an hour. Now, you also have to obey the speed limit, so make sure that, you know, when you're riding this thing, that you know what your speed limits are, because they probably can ticket you for going those speeds in a 20. If you're in a 25 mile an hour zone, you're doing 40, you're breaking the law. Even though you're on a bicycle, you're breaking the law. So just keep in mind that you want to obey all your speed regulations in your state. You know, just don't think you can't be ticketed because you're on a bicycle, because, you know, I know there's gray area on, you know, where your e-bikes fall, and I don't know if there are states prepared to try to prosecute you for speeding. I don't know. I mean, I know where I live, they're pretty lenient. I imagine if you're doing something stupid on these things, the local sheriff will just ask you to stop doing stupid stuff. I mean, I don't think anyone's out to want to ruin people's fun. You know, I haven't heard anyone nationwide getting hurt on these things. I mean, you know, if these things were really hurting people, you would see it on the news. But I mean, if you ride it smart, you do the smart thing, and you obey the speed limit, these things can be a great commuter bike for you to go to work or just to play around. Like I said, it's got the full throttle, so that you don't have to pedal it at all. You can just have the throttle move you from point A to point B. You're just going to use the battery quicker. And again, you get about 30 miles out of it on pedal assist 5 full throttle. Now, while I'm pedaling it, in which I have been doing, I get more out of the battery life. So, you know, it all comes down to how much you want to coast, how much you want to take advantage of gravity pulling you down and not using the throttle during that window of time. I mean, because you can really squeak out a lot of miles out of this thing if you drive it smart. All right, well, thank you for joining me.